Hello again, everyone. It's another installment of MustardHub Voices Behind the Build. In these episodes, I sit down with the people building, backing, and running better workplaces. I'm your host, Curtis Forbes, and my guest today is Jeff Mullins. Jeff's a marketing leader with more than 2 decades of experience across marketing, sales, and product development. As Chief Marketing Officer at Phenyx, a full-service agency, he has spent over 8 years helping organizations sharpen their marketing strategy and turn it into real growth. His work centers around building initiatives that strengthen brand presence and drive engagement, often for companies navigating complex, multi-level go-to-market challenges. Across a 22-plus year career spanning a range of industries, Jeff has managed marketing budgets and aligned strategy with business objectives. He's known for guiding companies through difficult problems and pushing past surface-level fixes towards solutions that actually get executed. Outside of work, Jeff's a devoted father, a committed fitness enthusiast, and a believer in comeback stories, captured by a phrase he keeps close: never trust a leader without a limp. Welcome to Behind the Build, Jeff. Thanks for joining me.
Hey, thanks for having me today. Appreciate it.
I really love that saying. I've used it since you introduced me to it, by the way.
Right on.
And we're gonna have to dig in a little bit to where this comes from. So let's just do that right into the deep end. Before Phenyx, before the titles, how did you find your way into this space in the first place?
Yeah, good question. I think most of my life has been a journey, and I think one step leads to the next. And
Yeah.
so, growing up as a single kid with one kid in a single mom home, I kind of had to stay busy, right, in the 80s. I lived in Austin, and I realized I didn't have TV, wasn't really into radio and cassettes and stuff like that back then, music. So I was always outside figuring something out, building a tree house, just running through the hills, being a kid. And I think that the lessons I learned back then to kind of either figure out something or have a good time with just the things that are around me made me pretty resourceful. And I think that just carried me into a sales career later in life, and then now into marketing, which, by the way, we obviously know they're two different industries.
Yeah.
They need to work hand in hand, but they are two very different industries.
Yeah. Thank you, by the way, for validating me but slightly dating yourself, though. With the references, trying to get my kids to have an '80s summer, and it's not working so well. But all right, Phenyx. Even the name carries a story, right? So, I mean, from your perspective, first of all, what does that name represent? What does it say, I guess, about how you've built the company?
Yeah, so I'm the kind of person who enjoys a challenge. I don't know. I don't want to do it the hard way. We talked about this a little earlier about doing
Yeah.
things, doing the hard things or doing it the hard way.
Yeah.
Somehow I'm motivated by things that I like change, and I like doing things that are hard. Um, I like to find the better way to do the hard things. But Phenyx came from a place where I was in an industry, very successful industry, and managed to do kind of everything I wanted to in that industry. I was a manufacturer, then I was a manufacturing rep, wholesale, and then was also a retail sales rep for that company. And then went out, opened my own location, like a franchise. Um, that goes back to 2008 through 2009, through the darkest, the Great Recession we had,
Hmm.
And then 2015 happens, and nothing was hard anymore. I got kind of bored with it. And so my brother-in-law owned a direct marketing firm in Dallas, Texas, and he reached out and said, "Hey, can you help me build this thing up?" And he was kind of flatlining, wasn't bringing any new clients in, and worked with him for a couple of years, grew that business with him, 300% growth
Wow.
in 3 years. Um, and then I wanted to do more marketing. I go back to when I was in my sales career. I ended up working with other marketing firms and agencies, and I just had a lot of revisions and drafts between them, and I really didn't like the process. It was very, very disconnected. It was kind of like it was too segmented and kind of in my mind. Um, we'd work on certain projects, right? Project oriented campaigns. Okay, we have a website. We're just gonna build the website. Oh no, now we need a brochure. We'll work on the brochure, and nothing was seamless. It was very, very fragmented, and I really didn't like that. I found
Yeah.
myself repeating myself a lot, educating these marketing firms, and then interviewing them and all of that. And then I go up, open my own company in 2008, and every time I picked up the phone, it was like a $3,000 to $5,000 ask. Hey, I need, back then you had business cards and letterhead, and I need this.
Yep.
And well, 3, 4, 5 grand. I need a website update. All these things just kind of kept coming at me pretty quick, and it was expensive. And so, as I wanted to do more full service marketing for my brother-in-law's company, I realized that there's an opportunity to take what I didn't like about working with marketing firms and do it different. Now we have Phenyx, and so Phenyx it was birthed from a place where it was a really challenging. I was addressing a challenge that I think the industry suffered from,
Yeah.
and I wanted to make it more seamless. I wanted to provide more value, more ideas. Um, our why statement at Phenyx is we push the boundaries that elevate those around us, right? So um, we're not going to be offensive, but there's a lot of times companies kind of get into a complacent, this is the way we've always done it kind of
Yeah.
attitude. And I'm like, yeah, but what got you here won't get you to the next hurdle.
Yeah. And that's true. I like that. We're not going to be offensive,
Yeah,
but I'm gonna push you.
yeah.
Does that make it into your pitch deck? I'm curious.
Oh, it does. It does. It does all the
I love
time.
that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
you hinted that the road that to where you are now, wasn't really a straight line, and that there is a real comeback, in your story. So I'll hand the floor to you. I mean, how much of that journey kind of shaped the leader and the operator that you are today?
Well, it kind of a lot. I mean, ironically, I work and business really close with my ex-wife. Um, we were married for 24 years, been divorced for 2 now, and we have a really good relationship. We're friends. We have 2 great kids, so we still co-parent well. But she said this about me. She said, "You're always quick to say you're sorry and recognize your mistake, and you're pretty quick on repairing that mistake." So I think that in life and in business, and my not so straight linear path in career, um, I learned from my mistakes. Um, yes, I can be prideful at times. We all can be,
Yeah.
but to my core, I think I'm always looking for how I can improve myself, and that goes from personal to business, to just really every aspect of my life. And um, you know, once I wasn't challenged in the previous career, um, that career actually got burned down for me. And we'll say that that's a podcast all by itself. But as I left that career, um, I had to reinvent myself, and that's why Phenyx is named Phenyx for 2 reasons. Number one, the co-founder who started the company with me, CJ, um, he is an amazing person. He actually has a daughter named Phenyx. So I
Oh,
think
wow.
that kind of planted the Phenyx idea in our
Mhm.
head. And then as I was, rebuilding a new career and doing a new path, and kind of, learning, I guess, trying to figure out what I want to do when I grow up, kind of thing, um, Phenyx just made sense. It
Yeah.
meant so much to us with his daughter, and then my career path, and yeah, it has a lot of meaning for us. We didn't just name it like GNL agency or something.
Yeah, yeah.
It has real purpose behind it.
Even in the way you described, you mentioned that sort of like that previous career, or previous stint, sort of burned down, right? And Phoenix, right, is the rose from the ashes, so to speak. So I think the imagery, I think, really lends itself to how you describe that experience. And then you use this line, never trust a leader without a limp. So unpack that for
Yeah.
me. What does it mean to you? Why does it matter when you're advising other businesses?
Yeah.
Maybe
Good
more
question.
importantly.
Good question. First off, there's a famous book called "Never Trust a Leader Without a Limp." It's a good book. But the statement of never trust a leader without a limp means so much more than just a title. Um, if you're going to go off from boot camp and join the military, and you're going to be trained in your special operations, whatever you're going to do, um, would you rather have a savvy vet who's served a couple tours kind of train you the right way and how to respond and keep calm in stressful situations? Or would you rather have this perfectly modeled GQ, no scratches, no scars? Would you rather that guy tell you how to get through battle? Um, because I don't think anyone comes out of battle unscathed. And I
Yeah.
think scars tell a story. And I think that with that savvy vet that has maybe a little bit slower walk, maybe a little more of a limp, um, I know he's been in the foxhole a time or two. And that's the kind of guy that or girl that I want leading me, answering my questions, teaching me what
Yeah.
I don't know. And I think it's about, um, ironically, I broke my ankle 6 years ago. It's been operated on and had it replaced last March. I have a very noticeable limp. So it's a physical, literal thing for me because I walk with a limp now. And I'm 45 and I'm in great shape, but the leader without a limp, man, I mean, it means so much. There's so much to unpack with that statement.
Yeah.
And I think that as far as I look at how I look at who I want to take advice from or criticism from, um, it better be somebody who's been on the block a time or two. It'll mean more.
Um, I want to come back to that in a little bit. When we start talking about the younger generation, and what you've noticed, right, in some of their habits, I think, and maybe what we can look forward to over the next few years. So, but first, let's talk about Phenyx.
Yeah.
What does a full service agency actually do day to day for the companies that you're serving?
Yeah, good question. When we started Phenyx, we were only going to be video production, and
Oh,
that's for the
really?
first 4 months. That's all we did. And
I didn't realize that.
the worst. Our actual name is Phenyx Media LLC. That's why the
Okay.
P and M of our logo looks like a P and M. But after like 4 months of putting out video content, this goes back to 2018, 2019. All of our clients weren't using it. They didn't have access to their website. They didn't even know where their website was hosted. They didn't know what platform it was built on. They may not even had access to their LinkedIn channel or social media at all. Like it was just a nightmare. So then I thought, well, if we can do video well, which is pretty tough, and this is way before AI is even here. If we can do this well, if we add on these additional services and become more of a full service agency, number one, I can seamlessly bring all of their campaigns and their strategies together, and then I could align that with all of their print, digital, media, everything, right? Content production, and then we moved into a full service. And as we did the full service, we started building websites, handling graphic design, SEO, social media, content writing. That's back all pre AI. Everyone now is a content writer.
Yeah, yeah,
Living in the
exactly.
day of AI slop. But yeah, so we're a full service agency, and what we do is I took it a step further, and I take a client, put all of their next 12-month needs into a fishbowl, and whether it's a new site or a redesign or this or that, or I need filming 6 times this year, put all that in a fishbowl, and then I charge them a monthly fee, and it's a subscription based model, and they can get 5 to 6 professionals on their team for the whole year, less than it costs one salary. And we as a team don't get sick, we don't go on vacations.
Yeah, right, right.
Individually we do, but there's always someone here to help out. So and it's a fixed cost to them, so it's pretty easy.
I love that. I mean, that's such a smart model. What kind of clients typically land on your doorstep? I mean, what's usually going on in their business when they decide that they need you or that they find you?
Yeah, good question. We're in a ton of verticals: energy, financial services, medical, legal, manufacturing, e-commerce. Um, we're in a lot of diverse
Hmm.
construction, which I think is very different than manufacturing. Um, And then, I mean, we even have jet brokers and RV dealers. We kind of
Oh,
have
interesting.
we have a pretty broad base, and I think that starting Phenyx in my late 30s, after being around the block a time or two, allowed me to really understand the world.
Yeah.
Case in point, my very first employee, one of our clients was a paintless dent repair company,
Okay.
and he didn't understand the process. And then I just stopped midway through our production. I'm like, "Have you ever filed an insurance claim?" He's like, "What is that?" I was like, "Oh, geez." Um, so, having people on our team under 35, I realize they don't have enough life experience. So they sometimes need me to help educate them because we're so diverse. But I
Yeah.
think our executive team is so well versed that you can literally unplug us. I can talk Botox and MedSpa in a 30-minute call, and then jump into oil and gas, talk about frac sand, and then pull that and go talk about manufacturing and supply chain challenges. So Phenyx is wildly diverse, but our science, our method, um, works across many verticals. So
You you've talked before about how the work itself has to like evolve, and pure design and storytelling isn't really enough anymore. So, I'm curious, is it AI? Is it the time that we're in now? What changed? Well, and maybe how did Phoenix sort of, pivot to kind of keep delivering?
yeah, good question. Well, I think AI is AI is probably the most overused word in everyday conversation.
That's
I would say 5 years ago the word crypto was overused in every other conversation. Everyone's a crypto guru, right? Um, and so I think that the word AI is very broad. Everyone's using it.
yeah.
Everything from Chat to Claude to Perplexity to Grok. It's everywhere. But I think people are losing sight of what AI really is. AI is a tool, and AI is there to help you do certain things, right? It can perform really quick analysis of like complex spreadsheets and calculations, and it can help you plan your next vacation. But ultimately, to me, and this is what I tell my clients, I'm like, yes, we use AI, but the gift is not in the AI. The gift is in the person with the idea and the creative strategy. Because if you don't know where you're going or how to get there, AI is going to give you more slop. And so I compare it to being AI is like the world's greatest combine, harvester, and tractor, right? And if you give me the world's greatest combine and harvester, and like I have all the latest, greatest technologies, and say, Jeff, go grow me a crop. I have
Yeah.
no experience. I'm going to struggle. You take a fifth generation farmer, you give him the same tools, and it's mind blown, right? So
Yeah.
the output will be much greater with the experience. And so I think that we're living in this place where people are just vibe coding and they're just doing this. And I think that's just, we're creating this infinite slop of recycling, bad ideas.
Um, it's kind of a good segue into this topic. Something I find super valuable about talking to folks, like someone like you, is actually is this vantage point, right? You're working with people across a lot of different, business types, verticals, lot of different kinds of leaders, and even I would say maybe organizational hierarchies, right? From the outside looking in, what separates the companies that are firing on all cylinders from the ones that are really struggling? Is there a common thread?
Um, I think yes, there could be based on company size and type. We have four clients, about 35 to 40 clients. Four of our clients are the 800-pound gorilla in their industry. They're the biggest, right? Um, and then I've noticed that they get they get really handcuffed by red tape, IT, security protocols, and they're not able to execute in a timely fashion. And two of them are publicly traded, and they lack this deliverability of a project. Like we had a project we were launching with them, a few months ago, and it would take them about 12 to 18 months to launch this app we were building for them, and we could do it in 4 months, right? Um,
Hmm.
we could do it in 4 months because of AI, because AI will help us, but it's
Yeah.
not doing all the work for us. But that would normally take our team probably 6 to 8 months. On a normal timeline, we can now shade that down to under 4. And so I think that those big companies struggle with red tape. They struggle with execution.
I- Is that because of like internal comms? Like, is it because of poor performers? Like, what is it that, for example, causes that velocity, that slower velocity?
Yeah, I've noticed that the big companies have. It's kind of like death by committee, right?
Oh,
You've
or
got to
that, yes.
got to talk to this person, to that person. Nope, we can't do that because she's not in the office
It's like
today.
ownership over things.
Yeah. So, but those companies have the budgets, right? So the they have the ability to fund what they need. Um, and then on the opposite end, where the companies that can execute, the smaller companies, they don't have capital, right? So their common thread is they're undercapitalized, but they're still the heartbeat of America, and they're small business owners that are doing great work, building great products, or are providing a great service, but they just don't have the capital to compete. So
So when you walk into a client and start digging, how often is the problem that they think they have the actual problem that you find?
um, I don't think the common problem with all businesses is you can't see the forest because of the trees. And I think a lot of them can vocalize what they do or what they sell, um, but they don't know how to get out of the forest to see like a broader view of what the real
Yeah.
value. So I don't even think they can see it. I
They're
don't think
just
it's
too in the weeds. They know
yeah.
there is a problem, they just can't, articulate what it is.
Yep. Yep. They're kind of camouflaged to the problem's camouflaged to them, and so you have some of the world's largest companies, Exxon, Apple. They all bring in outside firms. They
Yeah.
always bring in an outside perspective because um, it's easier for someone else to get to know you pretty quick and then talk about you and help you
Mhm.
solve your problems, identify them, than it is for you to do it on your own.
You've described companies, in chats. We gotten to know each other over a couple of months, right? You've described companies, that throw widgets and gadgets at the market without really checking or doing that sort of due diligence on whether or not folks will actually adopt them.
Yeah,
Um, where does that impulse come from? And what does it eventually cost them over
yeah.
time?
Well, that's an interesting part because I think that that's a symptom that every business struggles with, right? They The bigger businesses are typically led by data, right? So like one of my big clients, they're a multi-billion-dollar a year company, and I'm with them so much 6 times a year. I sit in the meetings, and I'm wondering out loud to myself if their forecast models are driven by the recent history so much that they can't really identify what the need is. Um, I feel like a lot of these companies, there's not a lot of Steve Jobs left in the world, right? Steve Jobs is one of the smartest guys that I'm just his drive, his his tenacious attitude of either building products or computers. I just don't see a lot of people like that anymore. And I find people that typically are a little afraid to make big moves when they design a new product or a new flavor or a new item. Um, and the ones that normally nail it are the ones that solve a problem that they've experienced. They build a better rat trap because the other rat traps suck.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
if there's enough people like them in the world, you can make money with that.
Something that we talked about before we hopped on this episode is that, like, a lot of, and something you've talked about before, that a lot of leaders chase what feels like that magic pill, right? The silver bullet, the AI tool, the some campaign, the redesigned website. They expect it to revolutionize their business overnight, right?
Yeah.
Why doesn't all that stuff work?
Well, there's a lot of reasons why it doesn't work. I think that what I've observed in my clients is they I don't think that they do a good enough job in attacking their market on all fronts. I think that there's a lack of execution in how they take a product to market. I think there's a lack of execution in how they design that product. Um, and then I think that when it comes down to it, you've got you got people that are also trying to play it safe. You know, you don't have a lot of risk takers out there anymore. All your risk takers are your entrepreneurs, right? They're your Elon Musk, but they're also Jim Smith excavation service, who
Yeah.
has he may have done some hard time in his 20s or 30s in prison, but
Yeah.
now he got out, got his life together. He's got a couple limps, and that kind of guy is the backbone of America. And he provides a service, and he's not afraid to over deliver. He's not afraid to take the big risk and buy the new equipment to push the boundary. That's what makes America great. Um, I love it.
You mentioned that, like, you've mentioned before, that your own leads have dropped a little bit because everyone now thinks they can build their own site, make their own videos, do their own all this. What's the lesson in that for business owners?
Um, good. Well, first off, we are a team of 11, and we all have our individual roles. So my web designer designs websites. He does not produce video content, right?
Okay.
And I think that there are other applications that we can't deliver on. If somebody needed some really advanced video production or some type of you know cinema 4D production where we can't recapture that scene or element in the video, we have to bring an expert in, right? And I think that a lot of companies don't have the right experts in the right place, in the right position. So um, that is also a massive crutch and limiting factor to their growth. You know?
Yeah, right butts, right seats.
Yep. Yep.
100%. You going back to one thing that we were talking about, just at the way beginning, something you obviously feel strongly about. I think people, especially the younger ones, right? They stop looking for solutions really early.
Hmm.
Um, and this kind of goes to back to the I guess the I don't know the grievances, right, that a lot of old folks like us have with some of the younger generation. But what does that actually look like in practice, right? Why do you think it's happening? And is it just a phase where we like that but just don't remember?
No, I think it's the guys like you and I, we ushered in. We were in high school when the internet came out, right? But we also were old enough to use a telephone when telephone books were out. So we're this unique generation where we know what it was like before the internet. Then we're also young enough to be on the cutting edge of the internet as it grew. Um, and I think that somewhere along the way, there's a couple problems. Number one, I didn't have a helicopter parent, right? Starts at home. The skills that I have today for problem solving were developed to me a long time ago. Like if
Yeah.
you wanted to, you never went to my grandparents' house or my mom's house and said, I'm bored, because they put you to work. You would learn real quick. I'm not going to want to work on a Saturday afternoon. I want to go play or go do something with my friends, ride my bike, or do something outside. And you learn real quick. Don't ever say you're bored, because that will cost you. You know. And I think that the newer generation, um, the helicopter parents or technology or something came in and kind of put a parachute on them where they can't run as fast and jump as high. They can't overcome speed bumps. I literally last week had one of my videographers call me, and he couldn't execute this edit that I wanted. And I was like, we've done this before. And by him calling me and me stopping what I was doing in that moment, that took me offline for a good 30 minutes. And I stopped everything I was doing in a forward, trajectory, and had to circle back with my business partner and be like, this is what I need. I don't know how to tell him the technical aspects of it. My partner's like, I can do it in 10 minutes. And my employee's like, it's impossible. He said it's impossible. Texted me, this is impossible to do it the way you want. And
Yeah.
I'm like, man, you got to have a little more fortitude and a little more grit and tenacity in today's market. And I'm also going to be sympathetic. You know, not everybody's going to have the drive that I do, or that you do, or other founders do.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I have another expression. I told my nephew this a long time ago. He didn't know what he's going to do. He's like 20, dropped out of college, and he's just like, yeah, I'll do whatever. Maybe be a delivery driver for Uber Eats or something. And I told him, I was like, look, you're allowed some time to think, and you're allowed to not have the answer to what you want to do with the rest of your life. I said, but you're not allowed to have an excuse to not look for it. So I said, look, as long as you decide to commit to yourself to staying productive and busy, kind of keep your hands on the plow, and you don't know what you're plowing, but you're going to plow. But you're always looking for that next thing that you want to do. What drives you? What interests you? How can you help build a career out of something you love doing so it doesn't feel like work? Never stop looking for the answer, even if you don't have it.
Just gonna let that sit for a second because I like that. I'm thinking of all the different ways that I need to tell my own kids these things. There's a really, it's funny when you talk about the like the helicopter parenting. I mean, there's a really good book out, that The Anxious Generation, and it's a. Have you read it? You
No,
look like you know what I'm talking
I'll
about.
look at it. No, I love it.
It's really interesting, and it talks a lot about how parenting has become this, like, whatever it is. I don't know how to describe it, but what's happening right on the other side of that, and these kids growing up without these experiences. You said you grew up in Austin. That's where I am, and I look around, and there's really zero chance that there will ever be any kids again who get to experience what it's like getting burned on a metal slide in the middle of the summer with no guardrails on either side. Those things don't exist anymore. We've essentially, we've somehow guardrailed ourselves out of experience,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
That kids have. The rules were, when we were a kid, you're home when the streetlights come back on.
Yep.
Those were the rules. But yeah, Anxious Generation, check it out. Super interesting. But I'm curious, with in the workforce. I mean, if you have to, figure the root of this, is it a patience problem? Is it a skills problem? Is it a culture problem? Or does it really stem from how they've been raised in adolescence with somebody coddling them?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think you brought up all the points. We could probably, argue and debate on each one of those and make a case out of it.
Yeah.
Um, I'm a firm believer that the tools that we have today were created us as really small children, and we learn how to empower those certain traits and tools that we kind of go through life. But for some reason, today's generation, some of the team, they're too easily either distracted or defeated, and I don't know if they're not asking better questions. Because I remember the first time I started welding, I was in shop class, and I asked questions. How do
Yeah.
I turn it on? Like, I don't think that they ask good questions anymore. And I think if you find a young person that does, hold on to that.
Yeah. You've also said, I mean, you've said before, right? A lot of people today just simply lack the execution skills.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I mean, execution is a big word, right? That includes a lot of things, right? That
Yeah.
make somebody have the ability to execute. So, what I mean, what do you mean by it? Where do you see it most? And I would then ask maybe like what's the real difference between somebody who has a great strategy and somebody then who can actually execute it? Like where do most people fall down?
Well, everyone has good ideas. They
Yeah.
do. And they can sit around and dream up something cool they're going to do. They tell their friends, they tell their family, they tell everybody, and then they go to sleep and they forget it the next day, and they wake up and they don't execute on that idea. Um, I think we recently named, we helped one of our clients name their annual meeting. We actually came up with the term. I sat down with them back in March. Of course, it's June now, and I said, "What's the temperature at the office? What's the message that's going around the team?" And they said, and I was like, "All right." And so the word execute came up in our conversation, and then like this company has all the tools, all the AI, all the money, all the budgets, but they don't execute, right? For one reason or another. And so I think we actually wanted to name it Evolve and Execute, but they made us drop the and execute off. I get why they made us because it has a negative connotation with it. But honestly, maybe that's why what's wrong with this generation. We can't say the word execute. Just get it done. We can't even
Yeah.
say that because we're in a world where words mean so many different things to everybody else. And like I said, don't be offensive, but sometimes you just got to get up. And like, I mean, I don't ever want to get out hustled by a crackhead. I don't. That crackhead is going to get up one day, every day of his life. He's going to look for a couple things, and he's going to figure out how to get what he needs, right? And that could be a burger, a sandwich, a thing of water, a new shopping cart, whatever. But like, if we could find some tenacity in that and not get out hustled by a crackhead, man, the world would stuff would get done.
I I'm going to lobby for that to be the title of your next book.
Okay.
Don't get out hustled by a crackhead. Please, just for the
Yeah.
love of God. Okay, thank
Yeah.
you. Um, so everything we talk about comes back to people, right?
Yeah.
When you look at the leaders of the businesses you work with, there's obviously people related issues that show up often, right? We've talked about the myth of the magic pill or the silver bullet, right? We've talked about those, that don't have a limp, right? You've lived this entrepreneur's grind firsthand, the daily battle, the good and bad decisions. Um, I'm kind of curious, like, what does that teach you about leading people through the hard stretches? I'm sure you've had a couple, everybody has.
Yep. I think the easiest thing I can do that I like to do is to lead by example. Um, last weekend we had a trip planned. We had to fly from Denver to Atlanta, and we literally took the red eye. We departed Denver at 12 o'clock on Saturday morning, and I had to film for a church at 8 a.m. Eastern. So I
Ooh.
landed at 5:30, took a nap on the plane, uh, got the rental car. We're at the church by 7:30. Filmed, got through it, 1:32 for the day. Wrapped, got on a plane and flew back home. I taught my videographer, hey, look, some I couldn't leave earlier that Saturday. I lost one of my best friends. So I was
Oh.
helping with this estate issue, and I said I need all day Saturday to take care of this business, and you can go without me, but I'm not going to be there until 5:30 on you know on Sunday morning. And he's like, no, I want to wait. And I'm teaching him that you got to take care of what's important to you. I had a family matter that was really urgent, but the show must go on. And I honored my friend by still getting the work done. And we literally spent more time on an airplane with no sleep than we did actually filming, which is insane. Um,
I do think that's insane processing that in my brain right now.
it hurt. I didn't feel good, but everyone's happy. I was able to take care of my friend's situation and his estate that day, and get everything packed up and kind of put a bow on that, deliver for the client. But I taught my videographer this. I'm not going to ask you to do something crazy that I'm not willing to do. So I'm a lead by example. I'm going to be in the foxhole with you. I'm going to do the thing that's crazy. Now when we got back, I gave him an extra day off. I mean, he got some comp time for that, because he kind of
Yeah.
plowed through it. The second part of, helping this generation is, as fast as I talk, as fast as I move through life and business, which is typically all on, or I'm taking a nap or a sleep, is taking a little more time and explaining to them what they're doing and why it matters. And so I have a lot of creatives. They're all creative. They get easily
Yeah.
distracted, and they'll end up making something, and they'll make something that I'm like, not, we missed the mark. I'll go back to them and say, look, you got to ask yourself, who am I making this for? What do I want to say? And how do I want them to feel? And if you can answer those three things, they kind of all line up with that design, that's a winner. But if you can't answer those questions, then that's a bad design. We need to start over.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's more about sitting down with them and telling them, reminding them of how important what they're doing. And so leading by example, and I think slowing down a little bit and showing them how to perform or correct or pivot or adapt.
I think that it's interesting, and sort of talking through that story arc just now really kind of gives a good picture of the things that you think about. When you're thinking of, when you're building a team you can trust to execute when you're not in the room, right? Talking about not being able to go, but these things need to happen, and you need to be able to trust that they're going to be executed at a
Yep.
high level, right? Without you necessarily having to be there calling all the shots. I- Looking ahead, right? Future of work. You have strong opinions on what it takes to be successful. What shifts do you see coming that business owners, entrepreneurs, founders aren't ready for?
Yeah, there's a lot. I think technology's on a massive, um, it's on a massive speed train from hell. I feel like at the times,
It feels
and
like that sometimes, doesn't it, Jeff?
yeah, it does. But part of that also is, um, like we're Phenyx is in a very interesting moment. We are like the agency that we started in 2018 isn't the same one we are today. And in order for me to adapt to this new market of AI, what does it look like for Phenyx? We're into this new evolution of what we're doing now, where it's ironically I'm bringing sales back into the marketing, where we're taking what we've learned and acquired over the years, got over $1 billion in sales. How do I help my clients not just market or create a campaign and handle all their their ads and their media, but how do I help them build a better team? How do I help them speak the same language and then obviously convert with new conquest business? Because that's what they need. They already have a stable of business, but how do I help them excel and grow that to that next level? It's new business. And so what we're doing at Phenyx is we are now pivoting to not just marketing, but really a marketing with a sales driven background or purpose behind it.
Mm.
And
Where
so
do you land on AI longer term for the kind of businesses you work with? Is it a threat, a tool, a distraction, all the above? Are you going to help them implement it?
they already have it implemented, but the problem is they have three different versions of it and they don't talk to each other. So there's not a lot of integration.
Yes, this is true.
There's not a lot of integration, and they're very fragmented. Like I have a client that's got two CRMs. I'm like, why two CRMs? And then you got subscriptions to all these different AI platforms. But I go back to we're still people selling people. We're still people providing services for people, and
Yeah.
the bots can't get that. They don't. You know.
Not yet. That is for sure. I want to wrap up with a question I love to always, kind of to close on. If a business leader is coming to you feeling overwhelmed, chasing that magic pill, that silver bullet, they're struggling to execute, um, and you're asked for the single most important piece of advice that you could give them as an entrepreneur, right? You have just a minute you're on an elevator before the doors open and they walk right out of there, what is the one thing that you tell them, Jeff?
I wish you would have gave me the heads up on this question, because it's a really good question. I wish I had time to process that and mull it over.
Hey, but this is good, right? Because this is an entrepreneur now asking you, and really you only have a minute, so I'm gonna get a very authentic answer right now.
Yeah. I would tell them to do whatever it takes to grow. You know, the movie made on the founders of Uber, I think it's on Hulu. He was quoted in saying in there a lot, we're either going to grow or die. And I think that businesses have to take that more literal today with AI and the movement that's going on with technology and the navigation between remote, hybrid, in office, all the things going on. Grow or die. Find out whatever you need to do to grow, and do that, and do it well. And that's it.
I like that. I don't think I would have expected anything less, especially given you're either in fifth gear or you're asleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I procrastinate it, it's not going to get done. That's why I'm just going to do it now, not well.
And you're not going to get out hustled by, a crackhead. We've already established this.
You got it.
Thank you, Jeff, brother. I appreciate you joining me and sharing your story.
Yeah. Loved having it.
And thank you to everyone watching and listening. MustardHub Voices Behind the Build. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Please visit mustardhub.com to learn more about MustardHub, AI predictive foresight, and how it powers behavioral workforce intelligence for the global workforce. Until next time.